Welcome to the Build on Beauty podcast, where beauty is born skin deep. Now, here's your host, author, speaker, entrepreneur, Cornell Jermaine.
Thank you for joining me today. We have a special guest. She is an entrepreneur, licensed realtor, and a life coach. Please help me welcome Lauren Wilson. Lauren, how are you today?
I am awesome. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. I must start by first congratulating you on your recent cover of the 2018 summer edition of Advance Magazine.
Thank
where you were. You are so welcome. You featured your wedding work list. You are obviously a newlywed. Congratulations on that as well.
Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about your journey of love for a moment. We all know there are many young women who are looking for love. First, before you met your husband, what was your journey like?
Prior to meeting him, I was, of course, really young. I'm 26 years old right now, and I had just graduated college. I had plans to move to Atlanta. I wanted to jump into, the music industry and just branch off into a different area. So I was just ready to, I wasn't completely thinking about love. I just wanted to live my life, live in a different state, start a new career, and have fun, pretty much, honestly.
So when you met your husband, how did you know that this was it?
It was just a crazy story and amazing feeling. When I first moved to Atlanta, I met a guy. He's more of a friend. We kind of, we were really, really close friends, got to know one another. So one day he invited me to one of his fraternity brothers' birthday dinners. So I said, of course, I wanted to, hang out, have fun. I was new to Atlanta. I had been really hanging out a lot, just working a lot. And so one of my girlfriends, my sorority sister, she invited me to her boyfriend's football game. Ironically, it was the same day, so I declined. I said, I have a date. I'll be, hanging out with my new friend. So the day before, which was on a Friday, the guy called me and he said, hey, my ex-girlfriend will be at the birthday dinner. I said, okay, that's fine. He said, it might be awkward. I said, it won't be awkward at all. He said, actually, I think it will because she's in the same sorority. I'm a woman of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. I said, I think it'll be fine. We're good. He abruptly interrupted and said, I just don't think you should come. Okay. So I ended up calling my mom, asking her, what should I do? I have my outfit laid out. She said, didn't one of your sorority sisters give you a call and tell you that her boyfriend had a football game? Maybe you should go there. Called my girlfriend up. She said, yeah, definitely come there. Game is at the Georgia Dome. It should be really fun. So I got dressed. She came to pick me up, and that same day, her boyfriend, they played South Carolina State University. They won the game. After the game, everyone was hanging out, and that's where I met my now husband-to-be, and it was literally love at first sight. I'm a pretty, reserved, standoffish person, so I wasn't typically, I just, hey, I smile and wave. We connected, and that was October 4th, 2017, and since that day, we have never missed a day without communicating with one another. So it was just a feeling that I never felt before. I've had boyfriends in the past. It's never gotten so serious, but that day when I met him, ironically, all the guys on the football team, due to me being from Detroit, no one knew who I was. No one knew me at all, and so the guys are like, hi, they're all trying to wave at me. And my husband, Dominic, he put his hand up and said, no, that's me. And typically I would just say, I don't even know you. We locked eyes. We ended up hanging out the entire night, walking downtown Atlanta, just really having fun. And I never felt that way. And from that moment, I kind of figured that this would be something serious.
Now, I must ask, how does it feel knowing that you were just moments away from missing him, because if you had stayed home or decided not to, how does that feel?
It's crazy. Literally, this is so funny. Our love story started to blow up on different Black Love page, different Instagram pages, different magazines started reaching out. And I tell the story often. And so one day, the guy that canceled the date, I sent him, we're still Instagram friends. We never fell out, but after that day, we pretty much never spoke again. He tried to call, and I'm just I was in a whole different world by then. So I actually reached out to him. Probably it was right before we got married, and I said, hey, I told the story. I know you like the pictures, you like the post. Do you know that I'm talking about you in the story? And I thanked him. I just said that was the best thing that ever happened to me, literally. You canceling that date I mean, I've never had someone cancel a date. So it just all worked out literally in God's favor. It wasn't something that I ever expected. I thought, we would hang out, we would go to Benihana, we would have fun. I didn't think anything, but that was it's insane because this guy, my husband, is from South Carolina. I had never been to South Carolina in my life. And so, ironically, his football team for his school, they win the championship, and they have a game at the Georgia Dome, and I live in Atlanta. It just was crazy, crazy amazing.
Crazy amazing indeed. Now, that just goes to show you that, when things don't always work the way you planned, I mean, sometimes you just have to go with the wind and just kind of let things just flow, because you just never know. So now, on your cover, we mentioned of Advanced Magazine, there's a cover story that says 9 ways to attract true love. I'm curious, being a newlywed and a life coach, what do you think some of the common mistakes young women make in their quest for love?
Looking for it. To be honest, when it's time, it'll happen. A lot of people just in general, men and women, they try to force it. They put a time limit. They put a age restriction, and they feel like if I'm not married or if I'm not dating at this age, then it's over, or if I don't do this. So I think that's probably the number one, is totally looking and obsessing over love instead of letting it naturally flow. It will happen. Everything is meant to be. Everything comes at the right time, and I think so many men and women just put such an emphasis on age and time, and from looking at things on social media, they think, I need this, I need that, when it can just flow so naturally. I had no clue that none of this would happen. I was just hanging out, having fun, getting into my career, learning Atlanta, learning Georgia, and it just happened. I knew that I always wanted to get married, but I had no clue at 25 years old that would be my lifestyle, that I would get married, that he would move, that I would move from Atlanta within years. He would move from South Carolina. We would live in the same state. We would get married. We would buy a house. I had no clue. So just taking it day by day. There's nothing wrong with knowing what you want, but definitely pray and make sure that you're in the right space. So at that point, I was, living my life. I had my degree. I had an amazing job. I had an apartment. I had a new car. I was doing things for myself, and then it just happened. So I think taking care of yourself first before anything is far more important than just searching and longing for love to me.
Absolutely, I agree. Now, you mentioned buying a home with your new husband. Let's talk about your background in real estate, and we have to get into it as pertains to new couples. But I just want to talk in general right now. What is home ownership, and why is it important to our community?
Home ownership means everything to me. I actually grew up around real estate. My mom's been in the business for 28 years. I had no clue that I wanted to become a realtor. I actually moved from Atlanta to get into the business because the Detroit market is just totally amazing. I tell people a lot to just do the numbers and do the math yourself. Renting, and I'm not opposed to renting. I'm a landlord. I own several properties, but I always feel like there's a season and a time frame that you should rent. Because if you do the numbers yourself for what you're paying, you could have owned something years from now. Having something that's your personal property. A lot of people have the myth that just because you have a mortgage, that it's not yours. It is 100% your home, and once it's paid off free and clear, which doesn't have to be a million years. A lot of people think that it won't be yours for 50 plus years. Home ownership means a lot to me, and it's a way for the entire, I won't even just say our culture, just American culture, to have something for themselves and have something for generations to come. So I am very, very, very big on home ownership. I'm big on credit. I'm big on savings. I'm big on finances. And it all pretty much ties together for you and your family in generations to come to have something that they call their own.
I'm glad you mentioned people having this conception or misconception, I should say, that home ownership is a lot of drama and all this kind of stuff, because there are a lot of gurus now, and I'm sure you've seen them, who are telling people that home ownership, or this American dream of having a home and a picket fence, is not what it seems. Why do you think that whole thing is now starting to play out in our industry?
I think what happens is people stray away from things that honestly, people stray away from things that they don't know. A lot of people are talking on topics that they really don't know about. They hear something from someone else, but they don't even do their own personal research, and they may not even qualify. So they have these big names and a bunch of followers on Instagram telling people that look up to them false information. I hear a lot of false information on homeownership, on credit, on ways to build your credit, and I'm looking and saying this is not even correct information. And it really kind of scares me because I know those big gurus with 100,000 followers, I know people are listening to them. And honestly, many times I personally reached out to them and told them, this is wrong information. I've studied it. I've been to school. I've researched it. My mom has taught me a bunch. She's a multi-billion-dollar real estate mogul in Michigan. I know a lot about real estate. So when I hear it, not a lot of things that really aggravate me, but it really annoys me when people make it seem like it's a bad thing. Now, it's one thing, everyone's dreams and goals are not the same, but I always believe in home ownership. You might not want a white picket fence, but owning anything that's your own is always better than renting it. Anyone with any common sense should know that. If you don't want that, that's fine, but don't teach others that is wrong. That's my perspective on that.
I think it's important to dispel some of those things that we're hearing. Just give me, off the top of your head, maybe a couple of things that you've heard maybe from other gurus that people are really listening to, and give them the proper information on what they should be doing in those cases.
So, for instance, something that I hear, kind of what you touched on, is that home ownership is bad. Literally, they'll say that phrase. I've seen it on large blogs, and they'll say why they believe so. And all of the reasons are mainly due to upkeep. As we know, of course, when you own a home, you are responsible unless you own a condominium or, if you basically a condo. If you own a condo, you are responsible for the upkeep of your property. So people make that sound bad when you have to cut your grass, or you may have to put a new roof on, or you may have to put new windows on. But all of that happens when you're renting. You're paying an upcharge for the owner to do that. And I tell people it's all just factored into a price. You're not paying it out of pocket, but trust me, when a landlord has to do that, everything you have, whether it's an association, whether it's rent, it's going to go up due to that. So I tell people all the time, would you rather buy a home and spend pretty much the average mortgage is about $1,000, and the average rent is close to $1,400. So I always tell people when they think about it, do the math. It's easier to rent because all you do is pick up the phone and say, hey, you call your landlord, hey, the toilet isn't working, or this isn't, the water is, running over, and they'll have to come fix it. But doing it on your own, this is your actual toilet. That's not yours. So, yes, you will have to, but if the owner decides to sale, which I own several properties, means I'll have to give my tenants at least a 60 to 90-day notice, and now they have to find a place to stay. So, I tell people all the time how important it is to own. So I hear that a lot. I hear that all of the time. I hear that credit cards are bad, which I am a person that believes nothing is bad unless you're not handling your business. If you have a credit card, of course you pay it on time. Of course, it's important for you to build your credit. And so I hear a lot of myths about just no credit cards. How would you build your credit in order to buy a car or lease a car? How would you do that? So a lot of things I hear, people are shouting out these examples, and then people are agreeing with it just because the person is a big name person, or they feel like, oh, she must know what she's saying. And I never understand it when you really think about what you need in life. Everyone's cash isn't everything. Just having a bunch of cash won't allow you to do what you need in life.
Now, for someone who maybe, let's say, in the next year or so is looking to purchase a home, what steps should they take now to better position themselves?
To better position yourself, to make sure that their credit in the state of Michigan, you get at least a 640 credit score. It varies for each state, but maintaining your credit. for sure, and saving as much as you can, trying to be able to pay for your own deposit, your down payment, and deposit is definitely important. So saving as much money as possible. Right now we're in a market with real estate where honestly it's so competitive that you need to be as up to par as possible. Years ago, people, the person selling the home, the seller, they were willing to pay closing costs, they were willing to help you a bit, but now it's a very cutthroat industry where if you want one house, there are probably 20 other people that are putting offers in, so you want to be the strongest candidate as possible. You want your credit to be up to par. You want to have as much money saved so when it's time to pay for all the fees that come with real estate, you're able to pay for it yourself instead of asking for assistance. Unless you do have, you're in one of those programs, some of the programs in Michigan, and across the board, first-time home buyer program where they help you with that. But it's really best to try to do it on your own, which will make you save everything that you have, not so frivolously. Make sure during that process you don't file bankruptcy or you don't purchase a new car. So living a very modest lifestyle on that journey, for sure.
Absolutely. Now, being a newlywed, let's talk about home ownership or buying a home from the perspective of a new couple. Is it important for both parties to have strong credit score, or can one be better than the other? How does that look for a newly married couple?
I always suggest, just as individuals, to have your life as best as possible. It's, your credit scores, I love when it's as equal as it can be. But one thing I did learn throughout my journey of life is when you do qualify for a home, it is best to put the home in one person's name and to later or after the transaction to add your name on the deed as a couple. To have as little debt in one household as possible is very important. So for my husband and I, as me being a realtor, our position was he purchased the home, I sold him the home, and I added my name on the deed after we were married. So we purchased the home about maybe 30 days before we got married. And so after we got married, I added myself onto the home, and it just made it where the house is solely in his name when we first got the home, to have as little debt within our one household as possible. It's really not so important for both parties to put the house in their name originally, because that means you both hold debt onto the property. So that's what I personally believe. Sometimes I have clients that do both. I always advise one person, and it doesn't matter. Let's just say one person's credit is 720 and the other is 680. It's not a huge deal which person does it, as long as one person, of course, qualifies for it. That has to.
Mm-hmm. Now, just so we're clear, when you're putting it in the one individual's name, that means that it's solely based on their income and their credit score,
yes.
And everything
Mm-hmm.
is just okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Just for the purpose of debt, if you do want something, a more luxurious home, it would count on, who has the strongest income for sure. But you don't want to max out. Of course, adding two incomes, your maximum would be for the house you can get would be a lot larger. But that's not so important to me, because you're accumulating more debt as a family. After you have your wedding, or if you have a large wedding, you want to keep everything as modest as possible. You want to keep things below your budget. So I always tell couples, let's just say with one income you qualify for $150,000. Get the $150,000 house versus the two. You may qualify for $275,000, just throwing out numbers. Stay as modest as you can throughout that journey, because the first year, as you know and you can imagine, I wouldn't use the word stressful, but you are definitely in a new transition of life. So I always like to keep bills low, which a lot of times keep stress low as well, because a lot of couples, especially their first year of marriage and just throughout marriage, one of the number one reasons for divorce is due to finances. So if you can keep a modest lifestyle as low as possible, whatever that means to you, low could be $500,000 for someone. I'm just throwing out different numbers. But instead of maximizing everything, keeping it low. So if any emergency or anything happens, that one income is strong enough to pay for it.
Absolutely. Now, for individuals that are looking for a realtor, give us some key things that they should look for in their realtor.
Looking for a realtor, I would definitely I would do some research on the person, on different variety of people. Look at their work ethic. I would not necessarily say don't work with someone that's a part-time realtor, but you have to be realistic with their availability. I've been a full-time realtor going on 2 years, and you have to, make sure that that person is as available to you. Make sure you ask them questions as far as, how long have they been in the business? What are their work hours? What are their times of availability? If I send you an email, how quickly are you able to give it back? To send me an email back, and just making sure that person's as available as possible. Do research on the company that they work for. And honestly, sometimes you can even do phone interviews, you can do in-person interviews to get a vibe of how that person is, and you'll get a strong feeling of if that's the right person for you. Because every realtor is not for everyone. Sometimes availability, you can ask them how many clients they have. Is it easy for them to juggle? Because no matter how many clients I have, I make sure that I tailor it. I remember everyone exactly what they have, what they're going on, their names, all their information, because that's important to personalize your experience with that person. Because buying a home is for a lot of people, it's probably the biggest expense that they'll have in their lifetime. And the average person stays in their home 10 years. So this is a huge deal. I just actually had someone that I'm working with say that this is the next step, the second most important thing that has happened in their life since the birth of their child. So I'm just like, I really have to give you a good experience.
As it pertains to owning a home as an investor versus buying a home that you're going to live in, how do those purchases differ?
Number one, it changes in price. For most of the time, investment properties are cash deals, so it's a lot different than a traditional mortgage. Some people, I don't flip homes, but I buy properties and I use them as rental properties. So the experience is totally different because you're in less control. You don't have as much control. You know that you're going to pay your mortgage. You know you're going to keep things up. You don't know what's going to happen. So it's a totally different experience from purchasing a home for yourself or your husband purchasing a home versus purchasing an investment property. Two totally different experiences just from the fact that it is your home that you own, but it's not the home that you live in. But you're still paying taxes on it. You're still, obtaining the home, doing all of that, but the experience is totally different and a lot less expensive as well.
Now, I just have to ask because I've heard a couple of people that I know who are married where they rent where they live, which it seems backwards, but they rent where they live, but they own investment properties, and it seems so, I guess, backwards, if you will. But is there can you make some sense of this type of move? Is that smart in some way?
I mean, everyone has personal different lifestyles. Sometimes it can just be a situation with credit. It really doesn't matter what your credit is to buy an investment property because, like I said, it's a cash deal. So if you have the cash, that's fine. Everyone can't buy a house. Everyone is not, buying an investment property for $5,000 and put $2,000 in it is a totally different experience than putting 20% down on a $200,000 home. It's a totally different experience. So I don't personally know anyone that has done that, but if I had to guess, I would say that there may be some issues with credit, that maybe they're working on credit, but they still want an income to come along with their investment property. That's the best thing I can say because it doesn't totally make sense to me.
You mentioned buying a home for $5,000. Now, because the average person, they like, well, if I can buy a house for $5,000, look, everybody should have a home. Are these homes in a certain condition, or when you're buying this home for cash, is there a lot of stuff that goes along with it?
Typically what happens is in the city of Detroit and a lot of cities around the United States, the economy crashed in 2008, which caused a lot of homeowners to either lose their home or simply walk away. If you lived in a home that was previously worth $50,000, that house could have easily shot down to $20,000, and your mortgage that you pay on it could have been a lot more that it's no longer worth. So some people literally packed their bags up and left. They rented, apartments. They did something, but they said, I'm not going to keep up a house that's no longer worth anything. So as years progressed, those houses without any maintenance, any upkeep, turned into a mess where blocks began to be totally empty. People started moving in the house illegally. A lot happened during that process. So what's going on in Detroit right now, a lot of investors and people are buying the homes back and putting tenants in it until the economy can continue to go up. They're holding onto the homes and waiting for it to get back up to the price, which by 2019 and 2020 we'll probably be at that point. So, yeah, what happened was the house is totally turned into a mess. He started almost giving away homes just so they won't have so many vacancies. And people started selling the home for $5,600, $8,000, $10,000 when they were originally worth a lot more. Sometimes these houses were in horrible shape. Sometimes they were just homes that were you put some carpeting, you put some paint, maybe put new windows in, maybe put $3,000 or $4,000 in it, and you would have a home you rent it out for about $900, and then boom, you hold on to it for a few years and wait to sell it again for $60,000, $70,000. So yeah, these neighborhoods, I would not say they were originally beautiful, amazing places, but over the last 10 years, they have turned into a total different neighborhood than what people are accustomed to.
Well, I could talk to you about real estate and stuff all day long because
love real estate.
Yeah, I know I could, but I don't want to keep you. But tell our listeners what else you have going on. You're an entrepreneur, life coach. What other ventures do you have going on?
Going on in my life. I am a realtor in the state of Michigan. I am an investor in the state of Michigan. I am a landlord. I own a hair extensions company called Catch Collections, which I started January 2017. I own a T-shirt company, a real estate T-shirt company, where I currently have 3 different T-shirts. This lady sells homes. I thought I sold, drink a little coffee, sell a lot of homes. I have that line, and I am a lead-based paint inspector and risk assessor, which comes from, a lot of people don't know what that is, but pretty much going back to real estate, with these homes, you do have to make sure when you are renting them out that you have lead inspections to make sure that lead is not within the home, because of course you have, people have children, and that can lead to a lot of injuries and, sometimes deaths. So they cost about $1,000 in Michigan to get the inspections. I was, started buying properties. I started selling properties to individuals, and I started, helping them find inspectors and risk assessors. To one day I said, I could just go to school for this myself and get my certification and do it for my clients. So that's what I did. A lot of people are like, what is that? But basically you go around with a machine, you see if lead is in the home, and you inspect the homes properly before people purchase the home. So I just got my license in that last year, so I've done that for 1 full year at this point. So that's my life, and then I got this, I got married, so now I'm a wife, and it's a lot, but I love everything that I do. I wouldn't trade any of them. It's amazing. I work hard. I just turned 26. I'm holding off on children for a while. Anyone that just recently got married, have been married within the last couple years, within 2 or 3 years, that's the first question you get as soon as the person you say I do. When y'all having kids? Just, so I'm just living my life and trying to, stay positive and just, help guide my clients and just individuals on the way and try to spread, knowledge that I personally know throughout the community, throughout, Instagram, Facebook, and as many people as I know.
I have to ask before we go, why is it important for women to be entrepreneurial in this day and age?
Having multiple streams of income just means the world to me. As every day things are changing, the fact that I love being a realtor, but the fact that 10 years ago the economy crashed, I never know what can happen. So just having streams of income and just like home ownership, having something for yourself. I never knock 9 to 5 at all. We need them as a society to thrive. But if you have something within you that you want to, do, I always say do it. But entrepreneurship is not for everyone. So I don't throw the term around to everyone saying, go do this. But if you have a passion, I say go for it for sure. But if you don't, I don't push entrepreneurship on anyone that doesn't have that in their spirit to do. But if you do go for it, the multiple streams of income and actually just going out for your dreams is extremely important for yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you so much again, Craig. Congratulations on the new marriage and your recent cover.
Thank you so much. Make sure you get a copy.
You're welcome.
Make sure you grab a copy.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, take care and best of luck to you and everything that you have going on.
Thank you, and same to you. You have a good day.
Well, this has been the Build on Beauty podcast, where beauty is born skin deep. I'm your host, Cornell Jermaine. Until next time, let your soul be made whole. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Build on Beauty podcast. For more information about our host, please visit cornelljermaine.com.